Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Or you prefer good morning, boys and girls? Because a lot of persons are still young at heart, and even the young ones. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You are welcome to this career development seminar, hosted and packaged and put together by Nonso Azih. My name is Nimi Edime. Good morning once again, and I'm going to be your host for today, and I'm going to be doing this with
Chinasa Akachuku. Good morning, everyone. And I'm going to be doing this. It's an honor to host with Nimi today. Thank you.
The pleasure is mine. The honor is mine. Okay, so before we jump right into the program, we want to give out gifts. We want to honor, or we want to award the most punctual. Should we? Yes.
Okay, so
we want to award the most punctual attendee. Yes, we're going to do that. The most punctual attendee. So if you know you were the first person to come here today, raise your hand up. No.
Okay, so this is more like a prelude to the main event, which is going to start in the next 2 minutes. But just because we're waiting for some of our panelists to still join us, we want to take this moment. We're going to have a series of gifts handed out to those we have seated from 0 to 5 years post-call. That is the young lawyers. However, if we think somebody who is not 0 to 5 years post-call, maybe like a law graduate, did very well as per what we have listed here, you will still get the gift. So pay attention and participate actively. So what we basically want to do is to gift the first person that came here this morning, like the most punctual, but I already know the person because I have her name. However, we can't do that now. We're going to start, and then in the course of the event, have the award presented to her. But every other person who came here after her can obviously have the gift. I believe you've been, giving some things, so hers will be presented especially and with some extra gifts. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, that being said, 0 to 5, get ready for a gift. Well, if you know you're above 0 to 5, there's nothing for you. That's what she's trying to say. And she also started collating votes before the election because she already has the person's name, but we'll leave that aside. So moving very quickly, we're going to stand for the national anthem to kick this event to a start. So the national anthem, please. Thank you. You may please have your seats. I couldn't help but notice why the national anthem was on. I noticed that the seniors in the house, they could sing it fluently, while the young persons were kept mumbling and kept looking at the screens. I know what's happening. Chinasa, what's next?
Okay, so next we're going to have a welcome address by the convener, So please, while you're coming in, sit down quietly so that you don't disrupt the room. So we're going to have a welcome address by the convener. Most of us already know the convener, Mr. Nonso Azih, but as I know, and as we all know, he's mostly known for the fact that he's an expert in maritime law, the founder and senior partner of Azih and Azih Legal Practitioners. However, few things you don't know about him is that he's very passionate about human rights activities. He's one of the active members of the MBA Human Rights Committee. And in fact, the first time I met him was at the Correctional Center, Ikoyi, which we publicly call Ikoyi Prison, where he was, assisting to offer pro bono services to an inmate. So he does that a lot. And he also hosts a program where he gifts young lawyers or give them opportunity to participate in legal essays annually, or law graduates. He do that a lot. And today, you can also see we have a seminar also organized by him, Still for Young Lawyers. So it tells you how passionate he is about your future and your career. So without further ado, let's have a welcome address from Mr. Nonso Azih, and let's have you put a round of applause for him while he comes up to the stage. Thank you very much, sir. Please, you have 5 minutes only. Thank you.
Thank you, Chinasa. My lords, benchers, distinguished senior advocates of Nigeria, esteemed seniors and colleagues, my dear young lawyers and law students here, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and distinguished guests. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the Nonso Azih Young Lawyers Career Development Seminar 2025, which is designed specifically for young lawyers to prepare and equip them with the necessary tools required to navigate the sometimes murky waters of life after law school. As we gather here today, I am reminded of the vast potential and talent that we have within our profession and the need for deliberate, systematic mentorship. And this is a cause to which I have been deeply committed to over time. My dear young lawyers, please know that you are the future of our noble profession. You are the people who will shape the legal landscape of Nigeria and beyond. And so it is imperative that we provide you with tools, the guidance, and the support necessary to excel in your careers. Today's event is a testament to our commitment to your growth and development. And in that regard, we have assembled a team of experienced and accomplished senior legal practitioners and consummate professionals, thought leaders, and key stakeholders who will share their insights, expertise, and experiences with you. Over the next 4 hours, we will explore and discuss matters and topics that are critical to success as lawyers, which will include academic preparation, professional development, networking, ethics, emotional intelligence, interpersonal skills, personal branding, and sundry best practices. I encourage you to engage fully with our speakers and our resource persons, to ask questions and to learn from one another. This is a unique opportunity to connect with your peers and build relationships that will last a lifetime. And to all stakeholders, please remember that investing in the development of young lawyers is not just a moral obligation, but a strategic imperative for the sustainability of our profession. Therefore, this event serves as a salient reminder to all senior members of the legal profession and the Nigerian Bar Association itself on the need of mentorship and career development for young lawyers. While it is undeniable that the NBA and a good number of stakeholders have made commendable contributions in this regard, it is required that the leadership of the bar continues to embrace its core responsibility of fostering the development of younger lawyers, ensuring a vibrant and dynamic future for the legal profession. To conclude, I welcome you all once again to this career development event. Let us work together to build a brighter future for our young lawyers, our profession, and our country, Nigeria. On a personal note, I'm happy to be here. Whenever I come to law school, it reminds me of the very first time I came to this institution in October 2005 when I started law school here in this campus. I still remember Muriakunola Park, what it used to look like when I crossed the park to enter law school, and what it looks like now, and the development that we have had, and also how I've grown as a person. So I welcome you all, and I ask you to relax and enjoy the program. Thank you for listening. God bless you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Nonso Azih. You put your hands together for Mr. Nonso Azih once again. And this is because, I don't say this outside a lot, but Mr. Nonso is the reason why I'm in Lagos right now. In fact, why I'm practicing in Lagos. So last year, just before the NBA Lagos Law Week, Mr. Nonso called me, because I had met him before when I was just out of law school. And when I met him, he just said, young man, you seem like an impressive young man. You're going to do well in this kind of stuff. I was looking at it, I said, me? How? And then we just got talking, we exchanged contact. He said his office is somewhere at Ikoyi. I said, I'm going to Ibadan. But before Lagos Law Week last year, he just said, Nimi, where are you? I said, I'm in Ibadan. He said, doing what? Nimi, you are meant to be in Lagos. And then he paid for my MBA Lagos Law Week. I think he sent transport. I can't recall. And then I came to Lagos, got a job in Lagos, and I'm here today. Mr. Nonso, thank you very much. Please put your hands together for him. This shows that he's really, really interested in the career of, he's interested in me, so definitely he's interested in what young lawyers have to offer. Now, the next thing on our agenda is for our keynote speaker. And I was telling Mr. Candidate Johnson when he walked in today that I admire him so much, not just because of how he speaks, because he's an excellent speaker, but because of what he contains. It's a bundle of knowledge. And the first time I heard him speak was last year, and I was in awe. I couldn't even jot. I had to go and watch the videos again to unpack everything. But Mr. Candidate Johnson is going to be giving the keynote address, and I'm going to read the citation very quickly. So, just one moment. Yes. Yemi Candidate Johnson is a senior advocate of Nigeria and the senior partner at Candidate Johnson Law Practice, a leading commercial law firm based in Nigeria. Mr. Candidate Johnson has remarkable experience in advising on complex commercial transactions, as well as advising foreign investors on potential investment in Nigeria. He is a public speaker and an author of several scholarly papers, as well as the leading textbook on arbitration in Nigeria. He has chaired and sat as co-arbitrator in a number of arbitrations across construction, petroleum, and public matters. He's continuously engaged as lead counsel in ongoing major and high-profile commercial and public policy disputes across the courts of Nigeria, and has been either counsel or arbitrator in several domestic and international commercial arbitrations in the maritime, petroleum, banking, and construction industries. He is the former president of the Lagos Court of Arbitration, Africa's foremost dispute resolution institution, and also a foundation board member of the Lagos Court of Arbitration. He holds an LLB degree from the University of Reading, United Kingdom, and a Masters of Law from the prestigious King's College, London. Ladies and gentlemen, please, with a standing ovation, welcome Mr. Candidate Johnson, SAN.
Good morning. Thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you to Azih. I corroborate his opinion about the importance of sharing with younger lawyers. I've told a few days ago when I was considering leaving the very temperate climate in which I was to come to this heat wave. I'm told that coming to Lagos now is like entering an inferno. But it was important to walk through the gates of hell, come and speak to the young lawyers and share some of the things that I know and that I remember. So it's a pleasure, and it's something that I'll always be happy to do. You know, the title that was given about essentials for successful law career is a difficult question because it's difficult to define what is a successful law career. Attorney at Work, a leading North American publication, asked a number of leading American lawyers to define success at law. And there were a range of answers. To be intellectually alive, to make enough money, and thrive, giving practical advice, making change for the better, keeping on learning, doing justice, helping others, being trusted, making a difference, making your clients happy, being respected, valued. What is success? I don't know. When I was on the Privileges Committee some years ago, we asked, starting from the regime that was started in 2006, when we started testing applicants for the rank according to the merits of their function in the legal profession, that they must establish leadership. And one leading lawyer submitted in his application the particulars of 4 different SUVs and a Mercedes-Benz. It was obviously his understanding that being able to buy those cars showed that he was a leader of the bar. And I remember, when we were young lawyers, I used to remember thinking about this problem. Chief Rotimi Williams, who maybe some lawyers here don't even know who that is, but Chief Rotimi Williams was the leading lawyer in Africa, maybe, between the 50s up to the 80s. And he used to come to court in a nice Rolls-Royce car. And people used to look and say, Chief Williams, and I used to say, Chief Williams has been practicing law for 40 years. He's entitled to, indeed, his success was not measured by his car. His success was merely a badge, a little trinket he chose, because he was a very big man and he needed the space in a Rolls Royce. But some people said, I want a Rolls Royce, Mercedes-Benz. Some lawyers say that if I have a big car, I've been successful. This is a mistake. Now, how will you know when you're successful? It's a personal judgment. Every person must decide whether they've reached the point in their life where they can consider themselves to be successful. To give you my perspective, I consider that I'm successful because I can come to work when I want, I can go to work when I want. People don't waste my time. If someone comes to see me, it's because they have an important question to ask and because they know I have an answer that is valuable. And if they don't come to see me, I don't care. So I'm able to have control of my own life, my own activity, and I can do what I want. So that's fine. And my children are happy. And they like me. Someone said, when your children think of honesty and integrity, let them think of you. I think that's what my children think of me. This is good enough. So they will tell me if I'm doing something wrong. But then, to be able to measure what is success in the legal practice as an entity, as a thing, it's important for us to understand what is the purpose of a lawyer. Now, the legal profession, we know, plays an important role that is fundamental to any democracy. The right to legal counsel and representation is enshrined and protected by international law. That lawyers work to guarantee rights and freedoms is critical. But misconduct by lawyers can have profound effects. And it's important to remember that law practice is not just a business. The perception that lawyers and law firms are involved in corruption has become relatively widespread. According to a joint survey by the International Bar Association, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, and the United Nations Office of Drugs and Crime, of 642 legal professionals from 95 jurisdictions, roughly half consider corruption to be an issue in the legal profession, both in their home and neighboring jurisdictions. The individual character and behavior of each lawyer therefore becomes a matter in which all of society must take an interest. Joseph H. Choate, I guess the American Chief Rotimi Williams of the 19th century, a legendary American lawyer and a diplomat, expressed typically the importance of a legal career. He believed that a man could be of greater service to his country and his race in the foremost ranks of the bar than anywhere else. And if I might quote him, to be a priest and possibly a high priest in the temple of justice, to serve at her altar and aid in her administration, to maintain and defend those inalienable rights of life, liberty, and property upon which the safety of society depends, to succor the oppressed, and to defend the innocent, to maintain constitutional rights against all violations, whether by the executive, by the legislature, by the relentless power of the press, or worse of all, by the ruthless rapacity of an unbridled majority, to rescue the scapegoat and restore him to his proper place in the world. All this seemed to me to furnish a field worthy of any man's ambition. He also is attributed the famous quotation, "You cannot live without lawyers, and certainly you cannot die without them." However, along with the pleasure and privileges of practice come many responsibilities and potential pitfalls. Chief among these responsibilities is the duty to serve the public ethically, diligently, and competently. I can tell you that a lawyer without high ethical standards is an empty vessel, a mere technician, whose relationship to the client amounts to nothing other than a casual, superficial commercial transaction. Who are the lawyers? You know, many years ago, at least 30 years ago, myself and some of our colleagues, Akin Lugbade, Anima Shaum, Akin Rele, Sonia Olu, children of lawyers, we started a magazine called the Legal Practitioners Review. And we came here to Sir Adetokunbo Ademola's house, which is adjoining this law school. I guess everybody knows who Sir Adetokunbo Ademola is. It's the first Nigerian Chief Justice. And he asked us to introduce ourselves. And he said, "Well, thank you. Law is for the children of esquires." Now, it sounds like an exclusionary provision, but what he intended was that the habits, the behavior, the ethical perspective of lawyers is something that is generational. You don't have to be the child of an esquire to be a lawyer, because right now there's a huge diversity in race, in religion, in character, in experience, and background. But what is important is that a lawyer sustains that ethical perspective and that character of an esquire. When they call you esquire, people write it, even women call themselves esquire. Esquire is a gentleman. And this is important. So this is the sort of person. So the conclusion of this introduction is that in evaluating the success of a legal career, you're looking both at a technical skill aspect and you're looking at a moral aspect. These are both important. Integrity issues are critical to the work of lawyers and law firms. Now, there are four core legal principles regarding integrity which guide legal practice: independence, confidentiality, avoiding conflicts of interest, and maintaining professional integrity. The factors that create integrity risks relate to the pressure and incentive some lawyers and law firms have in turning a profit, the undermining of their independence, the potential for abuse of attorney-client privilege, weak industry-wide anti-corruption standards, and weak internal policies in law firms themselves. Some lawyers also lack awareness and knowledge of anti-corruption provisions. Most experts agree on the standard principles of integrity that underlie the legal profession. The IBA, I assume everybody knows what the IBA is, the International Bar Association, okay, has created a list of 10 international principles on conduct for the legal profession. These include: 1, independence. A lawyer shall exercise independent, unbiased professional judgment when advising a client, including in relation to the likelihood of success of the client's case. This independence is both protective of a lawyer should be protected from outside pressures that impair professional judgment, and self-disciplinary. Lawyers should not impair their own professional judgment by pursuing personal interests or succumbing to outside pressures. It's very difficult to tell a client your case is going nowhere, but this is a fundamental to your role and responsibility. I saw some years in the recent past, lawyers fined by the Supreme Court for bringing cases had no hope of success. That would be regarded not just as a matter of fining, but as a matter of professional misconduct. In some jurisdictions, that sort of case would cause you to lose your practicing license. Confidentiality. A lawyer shall always maintain and be afforded protection of confidentiality regarding the affairs of present or former clients, unless otherwise allowed or required by law or applicable rules of professional conduct. I'll say something about that hereafter with regard to anti-money laundering provisions and that protection, because that is money laundering has become such an important issue that it has in many respects impacted upon the confidentiality that the duty lawyers may have to their clients. Conflict of interests is the third. A lawyer shall not assume a position in which clients' interests conflict with those of a lawyer, another lawyer in the same firm, or another client, unless otherwise permitted by law, applicable rules of professional conduct, or if permitted, with the client's authorization. These are fundamental principles of legal practice. Professional integrity. A lawyer shall always maintain the highest standards of honesty, integrity, and fairness toward their clients, the court, colleagues, and all those with whom the lawyer comes into professional contact. You know, if you talk about the rules of professional conduct seem like a long and voluminous document, but the fundamental principles can be summarized in these 4 points. And this is why, again, when you say someone is an esquire, you don't need to tell him what shouldn't be done. But since we cannot guarantee that everybody is cut from the same cloth, you can give guidelines which people, if they follow, they will succeed by those. Now, there are certain characteristics that are unique to the legal profession which put lawyers at risk of involvement in corruption. Attorney-client privilege. This is central to the legal profession and is also one of the IBA's common principles. However, this privilege also means that lawyers can become aware of clients' illegal and corrupt activities. In the absence of disclosure requirements that make it mandatory for lawyers to report corrupt practices, and in some cases, illegal to inform the client of their suspicion, corrupt practices may, in some cases, go unpunished and indeed made covert by the conduct of lawyers. Another feature is the role of lawyers as intermediaries. For example, a client may request a lawyer to set up a legal structure that appears lawful, but which is used to launder money. The relationship to public authorities can also give rise to concern. Lack of independence may put lawyers at risk of undue influence and cause them to act in a way that is not ethically sound. And the IBA provides a list of scenarios in which a lawyer's independence will or may be at risk. When the lawyer is involved in a business transaction with a client without proper disclosure or client consent. When the lawyer is involved in a business occupation or activity whilst acting for a client, and such an interest may take precedence over the client's interest. When the lawyer knowingly acquires an ownership, possessory, or security interest adverse to the client, except where authorized by law. When the lawyer holds or acquires a financial interest in the subject matter of a case which the lawyer is conducting, except where authorized by law. buying your client's land, buying the property that has been seized by the court. These are all dangers, and these are things that have got lawyers into trouble in many cases in the past. Now, misuse of attorney-client privilege is also one thing I said I would come back to. Attorney-client privilege is seen as a cornerstone of legal practice. However, in the context of corruption scandals, there's an ongoing debate about the extent of this privilege and whether it assists in covering up corrupt activities. In recent years, there have been regulatory moves towards curbing the privilege when related to illegal or corrupt activity. There are now many jurisdictions with legal obligations relevant to the reporting of corruption. Most of these relate to anti-money laundering legislation and corporate governance rules. In the European system, the third anti-money laundering directive of 2005 requires financial operators, including lawyers, to report any suspicious or unusual transactions or activities, and also includes offenses such as tipping off of a client when investigations are underway. Anybody who has read Nigerian anti-money laundering legislation, which is faithful to the international models, will confirm that many of these restrictions are placed on us as well. I know that the Nigerian Bar Association has gone to the Supreme Court to limit the obligation of lawyers to disclose, but it's a very dangerous line. And the truth of the matter is that regulation of law is international. I refer to IBA because we can't only look at what we have here, we have to look at what is happening elsewhere. Many Nigerian lawyers are practicing transnationally, and it's not sufficient for you to say, I didn't know. You know, it's very interesting. I had an interesting story some years ago. Someone asked me to give him legal advice. He was the deputy chairman of the Parents Teachers Association, the school where my children went, and I was the chairman. And I gave him this advice, and he said to me, how much would I be paid? I said, it's a favor. There's no reason to be paid. This was just my ancestors protecting me. Because ultimately, a huge money laundering investigation involving hundreds of millions of dollars was launched. This man was arrested at San Diego airport, where I had agreed he should meet investigators concerning this matter. Himself and his father were held in Comunicado in federal detention facility for 3 months and then deported in handcuffs to Switzerland, where they faced charges. That was their own fate. But every law firm that they had paid money to had their accounts frozen across the world. So I would have been sitting down there because of the $2,000, I'll not be able to pay children's school fees. So I just said, well, look, you know, I don't know how to say it in English. Orimi look bejami. Anyway, well, literature reveals that the landscape has changed in recent years. So that is one aspect, anti-money laundering. And that there's a greater emphasis on the importance of ethics and integrity in the legal profession. Businesses and governments are increasingly assessing it as they would any other sector that is exposed to corruption. So the mystery and the mystique of being a lawyer does not prevent you from facing the scrutiny that the conditions of international and national business demand today. Experts note that clients have been the driving force in bringing about these improvements. By increasing their demands and their scrutiny, clients have helped raise standards of anti-corruption compliance. This is the report of the IBA and the OECD. Okay. Now, the 2010 IBA, OECD, and UNODC survey also revealed that the issue of tackling corruption is a priority for legal professionals in low and mid-income countries, such as Nigeria. So it's something that we have to pay great attention to. We want to make money, and I understand when you start legal practice, you want to be rich. Don't know what that means, because indeed, I was having a discussion with my friend, Mr. Gude, just now, and I was telling him, we're wondering what do people do with money? Because at the end of the day, you know, we already have too much stuff anyway. So it's difficult to understand why people, I guess it's a matter of stages. At some stage, you think that it's important to have these things. But then the world is changing. We're talking about international events like the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. We're talking about people who are practicing in international arbitration. Everywhere you come into contact with jurisdictions and legal professionals from a variety of places. You cannot measure your success by virtue of what happens in Oshobo or in Oka trying to think of someone in the north that I can also abuse. No, Kafanchan, yeah. But this is the thing. Any lawyer who thinks that that is their scope is making a mistake, and they will be punished for it. Technology has made the world extremely small. 21st century law practice requires new skills, which will be tested across the world. I mean, the law blogger Jordan Furlong said that previously the skills of a lawyer were analytical ability, attention to detail, logical reasoning, persuasiveness, sound judgment, writing ability. But now it seems that lawyers have to learn to collaborate, because the things that we're doing with people in China and in London at the same time. You need emotional intelligence, because clients need our empathy, perspective, and personal connection to feel whole and satisfied. Colleagues need our engagement, respect, and understanding to be their best, to help us succeed. Everyone needs us to listen better than we do. Lawyers have to learn that. Many lawyers have the perspective that they know the answer and they need to dictate to the client. It's very important to be empathetic and to find a solution which works and satisfies. It's not just sufficient. There's no golden or magic bullet, and it's very important for lawyers to understand this. They have to be empathetic. The market no longer wants lawyers that are half people, that are just mechanical instruments. They want lawyers that know what the client wants. Lawyers need to have financial literacy. Lawyers need to learn time and project management. Lawyers need to understand that mastery of technology, because of its impact on disrupting and changing our legal process, is something that if you don't have, you have failed. In some jurisdictions, in the United States, in many states, failure to understand technology is regarded as professional misconduct. I think it's Rule 11 in the Texas rules. Failure to be able to apply basic technology that everybody assumes. So in some places, I met some lawyer telling me, I said to him, I went to Aba for a case. Not because Aba could have happened in Shagamu, but I said to him, I'll send you an email. He said, okay, but I don't have email. That's fair enough. I spoke to a former Supreme Court justice who was involved in the case in which I said to him, I will send you an email, sir. He said, somebody checks his email every week. So there you go. In many places, that would be regarded as misconduct. A lawyer's fundamental duty has always been to provide competent representation to the client. In the past, lawyers thought of competence as focused only on substantive knowledge of a certain area of law, combined with the experience and ability to adequately represent a client in a specific engagement. As times have changed, so did the view of what it means to be competent. Professional rules are being updated to clarify that maintaining technology competence is part of meeting that duty. In short, lawyers can no longer be proudly unaware of technology and these other skills and still claim to ethically serve their clients' needs. So that's exactly at the time which she gave me the note saying, time to sit down and shut up. And I thank you for listening. I hope I've said some things that are interesting. And
Thank you so much, sir. Please, another round of applause for Mr. Emeka Dede Johnson, SAN. So I hear you, sir, and everything he has said so far bothers so much on ethics. When we talk about the essentials for a successful lawyer, it is not just cars or the money that the lawyer has, but it has to do with character and substance. So a lawyer must be someone of good character and substance. Like he said, you have to look in the mirror. If you were looking for someone who is honest, who is a person of integrity, would you hire yourself? So I think we can always use ourselves to talk about the kind of brand that we want. When your children are looking for someone of high integrity, honesty, someone that has dignity, would they look for you? What kind of example do you show to people very close to you in your family? How do you tell them that lawyers react outside? Are you an esquire? Or you're just a lawyer, but, we say, I'm a lawyer, but, so let's not have buts in the kind of person we are. Let's be persons that, are of substance and good character. So thank you very much, Mr. Emeka Dede Johnson. It's always a pleasure to listen to you, sir. So while he was speaking, we have some dignitaries walk in, and I would like to welcome them. So we have in our midst Honorable Justice Taiwo retired. Please a round of applause for him. We also have Dr. Omogbae Omo Ebo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Thank you for coming, sir. We also have in our midst, Mrs. Lola Ukwa-Agu. Thank you, Mrs. Ukwa-Agu. Thank you so much. Thank you, ma. And then we have Mr. Adekunle Olaofe. Thank you, sir. So while the seminar is going on, if you look behind you, you will see we have table water, we have some refreshments for you. So when you feel like it, just stand up quietly, go to the back, take what you need, and come back and join the conversation. So we're gonna now have the panel session, the part that is like the crux of the event. And so I would like to please invite you to please come to the stage, come back to the stage. Thank you so much. He's not the only one. We're going to have other people, men of integrity, men of the legal profession, the icons, also join him. So sit tight and you'll have a memorable session.
All right, so we have a lineup of speakers that I can boldly say is the Magic Circle law firms of Lagos. We have speakers, panelists rather, from UUBO, we have from Bloomfield, from Banwo Ihodalo, Strain and Bland, I think it's Aluko, no, Olano Ajayi, yes. So we have the Magic Circle law firms of Lagos. First on our list, Adeyemi A. Akinsanya, ESQ. Yemi Akinsanya obtained an LLB honors, please. I read it the way it was here. From the University of Lagos, Nigeria in 1976, and an LLM from the London School of Economics and Political Science in 1979. He was called to the Nigerian bar in July 1977 and enrolled as a notary public of the Federal Republic of Nigeria in May 2014. After brief stints between 1979 and 1981 with the firms of Odu Jirin and Adefulu in Lagos and Sullivan and Cromwell in New York, respectively, he worked from 1981 to 2002 in the office of General Counsel of Mobile Producing Nigeria Unlimited. For 3 of those years, 1993 to 1996, he was on assignment as International Transactions Counsel in the Mobile Oil Corporation E&P Division, Office of General Counsel in Fairfax, Virginia. While in MPNU, he was involved in every aspect of the business and operations of the upstream oil and gas industry, including, without limitation, its processes, transactions, and ventures. He retired voluntarily from MPNU in 2002, having held several positions, including Senior Counsel, Company Secretary, and Acting General Counsel. Yemi Akinsanya is currently Principal of Adeyemi Akinsanya Associates, a service-oriented boutique law firm specializing in oil and gas transactions and advisory, as well as general corporate commercial transactions, estates and wills, and properties. He is with over 45 years tested experience in major domestic and international transactions and projects. He is listed on several panels of neutrals, notably the Lagos Multi-Door Courthouse, the Federal Court of Appeal ADR Center, and the NUPRC ADR Center. Outside of mediation and law practice, Yemi is a classical pianist and is a member, trustee, and the honorary secretary of the Musical Society of Nigeria. He's also on the board of governors of the Petroleum Club, Lagos. Mr. Yemi will be joining us soon, but please put your hands together for him. Next panelist.
Also going to have Ozufulatunde Ogemudia, who is a partner in Udo Udoma and Bello Osage, where she heads the corporate adversary and pro bono teams, and is also a member of the employment, private equity, and mergers and acquisitions team. In January 2024, she became the deputy managing partner of Udo Udoma and Bello Osage. Her reputation as an exceptionally resourceful and adaptable advisor stems from her extensive experience in various areas of law, including labor and employment, private equity, mergers and acquisition, corporate and commercial law, corporate restructuring, regulatory compliance, and company secretarial practice. At the helm of the firm's pro bono practice, Ms. Ozofu spearheaded notable collaborations that earned accolades such as the 2018 Trust Law Collaboration Award by the Thomson Reuters Foundation for contributions to the 28th Too Many Reports on Female Genital Mutilation. The firm was also awarded the Lex Mundi Pro Bono Foundation Award for Africa in 2020 and 2022. In addition to her extensive role at the firm, Ms. Ozofu is presently the chairperson of the Nigerian Bar Association section on business law. She serves as chairperson of the Technical Advisory Committee for drafting the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020 during the 8th Nigerian Senate. She also was the thematic lead of the National Assembly Business Environment Roundtable. She also served as the private sector co-chair of the Technical Subcommittee for the Nigerian Economic Summit in 2023 and 2024. Consistently, she has been recognized for exceptional contributions. She has been named annually as one of the IFLR 1000 Women Leaders by the International Financial Law Review since 2028, to mention a few. So with all this accolade, I thought by now you would have been giving her an applaud while she climbed the stage. It's an honor to have you, Ma. Thank you so much. Thank you for all your accomplishments, and we hope to listen to you and hear a lot from you today. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, okay. Ayodele Oni is a partner at the law firm of Bloomfield Law Practice. He holds an LLB honors from the Lagos State University, a master's degree from University of Calgary, LLM, and a PhD from the University of Southampton. He's an expert in electricity, oil and gas projects, financing, acquisitions, and restructuring, and has a knack for creating ingenious and effective strategies to ensure the success of transactions. He has been recognized as being in a league of his own by the internationally renowned directory Who is Who Legal, and has also been ranked among the world's leading lawyers in the chambers and partners and the Legal 500. He maintains a seat at the table in the negotiation of almost all major electric power sector transactions in Nigeria, and remains key in the negotiation of energy, including refining and pipeline infrastructure projects and financing transactions across Nigeria. He has been described as being responsive and valuable, and is noted for his excellent service at all times. He's a member of the Nigerian Bar Association and the Nigerian Gas Association. Ladies and gentlemen, representing Ayodele Oni is Uboho Inyang, Executive Associate and Team Lead Energy and Natural Resources Practice, Bloomfield LP. Please put your hands together for him.
We are also going to have join the panelists, Mr. Akindeji Oyebode. He is a partner in the Energy and Natural Resources Practice Group of Banwu and Igodalo. He is consistently ranked Tier 1 Nigerian law firm, or their firm is consistently ranked Tier 1 Nigerian law firm. He obtained his Bachelor's of Laws from the University of Lagos, following which he proceeded to the Nigerian Law School and was subsequently called to the Nigerian Bar. He holds a Master's of Laws degree from the prestigious University of Pennsylvania, Carey Law School, and is qualified to practice as a lawyer in the state of New York, United States of America. He has attended various professional trainings in contract negotiation, energy, taxation, and finance-related fields in Nigeria and abroad, and has a mini MBA in power and electricity facilitated in 2013 by Terrapin in Dubai, United Arab Emirates. He was also a visiting associate at the Office of Baker and McKenzie in South Africa from November 2015 to December 2015. Mr. Akindeji Oyebode has been ranked as a next generation partner by the Legal 500 and as a rising star partner by IFLR 1000. Due to his impact on several complex and market-shaping energy, infrastructure, and financing transactions, he was the only Nigerian lawyer and one of 5 lawyers in Africa nominated for the Up and Coming Lawyer of the Year Award Africa in the Chambers Africa Awards 2023. Mr. Akindeji regularly facilitates trainings on energy law, policy, and sustainability, and has also authored various articles on different areas of energy law in Nigeria. He has advised on several notable transactions, including Renaissance recent acquisition of the Shell Petroleum Development Company of Nigeria. He is currently serving as the second vice chairman of the Energy and Environment Committee of the Section on Business Law of the Nigerian Bar Association and a member of the Committee on Continuing Legal Education of the Nigerian Bar Association Lagos branch. He is also an active member of the Nigerian Bar Association, the American Bar Association, the New York Bar Association, and the Loan Market Association. One person. Please, a round of applause for him. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. Thank you.
You read some of these citations and you are like, God, when? God, soon. After this panel, God, soon for some of us. Next on our list, Uzzioma Agu. Uzzioma Agu is a partner at Strain & Bland Partners, leading the Energy, Finance, and Infrastructure Practice Group. She has garnered years of experience advising on various aspects of banking and project financing, amounting to cumulatively over $5 billion, including Nigerian and foreign financial institutions, export credit agencies, government funds, and the private sector. Her expertise also shines in the energy sector, particularly oil and gas and power. She has advised on significant deals, including the acquisition of major IOCs in Nigeria, the financing of liquefied petroleum gas depot, and facilitating funding for key oil and gas companies. Uzzioma excels in infrastructure advisory and public-private partnerships. She recently advised a leading telecommunications provider in a headline PPP intervention road project with the federal government of Nigeria, which saw the implementation of the Road Infrastructure Tax Credit Scheme. She also acts as a lead advisor to an international client on the concessioning of a seaport in Libreville, Gabon, and is currently advising an indigenous client on the large-scale mining of tin and columbite in northern Nigeria. Wow. In 2024, Uzzioma was honored as one of the 25 under 40 energy women rising stars by the African Energy Chamber, celebrating her exceptional achievements in Africa's energy industry. Her expertise is a driving force in the energy, finance, and infrastructure sectors, making her an invaluable asset to Strain & Bland Partners and the clients she serves. Ladies and gentlemen, jam those hands for Uzzioma Agu as she comes on stage.
Please, when we call the panelists, you need to clap for them. As they are hearing these transactions, their accomplishments, I mean, it should inspire you to put your hands together for them. That clap was not enough. Please, another round of applause for her. Thank you. And we are going to have the moderator for this session in person of Dr. Uta Chukwu Echefu. But before he joins us, we're going to read his citation. Dr. Ukata heads the Maritime Practice for Lanuwa Ajayi LP, and was the former head, Maritime Division, Mike Ibokwe, SAN and Co. He has cognate experience in shipping law, arbitration, and litigation. In the course of his practice, he has advised and represented shipping companies, government agencies, and other maritime bodies in admiralty and maritime cases in superior courts in Nigeria. Dr. Okata was the best graduating student of his LLB class and obtained his LLM degree in shipping law with distinction at the University of Cape Town under the tutelage of Emeritus Professor John Hare, former Secretary General of the Committee Maritime International, under whom he also did doctoral research on general average and yoke Atawat rules. In his professional career, he has straddled the academia and professional practice. In the academia, he served as the teaching and research assistant at the Commercial Law Department of the University of Cape Town, where he taught and researched on corporate law, maritime conventions, maritime rules, particularly the York Antwerp rules, regulations, and case law on maritime issues. An avid scholar, he has presented papers and attended conferences both in Nigeria and abroad. His articles on maritime law have been published in peer-reviewed articles locally and internationally. In recognition of his scholarly contributions in maritime law, he was honored by the Gravitas Journal of Business and Property Law in its 2019 calendar. He is an article reviewer for local and international maritime law journals. He was a member of the committee set up by the Nigerian Maritime Law Association that drafted the Admiralty Jurisdiction Rules 2023. He personally drafted the Court of Appeal Rules 2021. Wow. Please, a round of applause for Dr. Okata. He is a perfect moderator for this wonderful panelist.
You know, when you were reading his citation, I was saying this is a PhD, that is a PhD.
Yes.
Scholarly, research.
Thank you so much.
All around Nigeria, all around the world. It's an honor and a privilege to have this distinguished panelist here. Have Mike. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Before we go straight into the panel session, we just want to recognize some distinguished ladies and gentlemen that have joined us. Please put your hands together for Mr. Chuks Uwana. Mr. Chuks Uwana, please put your hands together for him. It's a pleasure to have you here, sir. Mr. Kenneth Kelly. Mr. Kenneth Kelly, please. Thank you, sir. Mr. Shegun Olaya. Mr. Shegun Olaya. Dr. Deji Awoyobide, representing Professor Abiola Sani, the Dean Faculty of Law, University of Lagos. Please jam your hands together. Thank you, sir. Okay, I think.
okay, so let's now sit down and enjoy the panel session moderated by Dr. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to our distinguished hosts. I've really enjoyed the way you've anchored this event so far. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for gracing this event. The way we have structured this panel discussion is that none of the panelists here, and they can confirm this, none of them are aware of the questions I'm going to ask them. And the reason we decided to do this is because we want to have a very frank and pragmatic discussion amongst us today. They don't even know the area that I'm going to ask them questions on, so that we can be able to be open to one another and have a meaningful conversation. The Leonard Silk, thank you very much, sir. I know you're a very busy man and highly sought after. Thank you for making our time to be here with us, and to all the panelists also. We are grateful. Let me start with you, sir, because I was struck by your speech, and the reason for that is that at the time I wanted to get into the car to drive down to this space, I remembered something that happened, and you talked about integrity so much in your speech. It just flashed in my mind as if the heavens were speaking to me about what the heavens is going to say, though I'm not a prophet or a sorcerer. Integrity. I remember an interview that I conducted years back, and that's what flashed in my mind. A very brilliant young lady, speaks like you, very articulate, and I enjoyed the interview. But when I got to the end of the interview, I just asked her, can you tell me an event or something that you did that shows me how smart you are? And she answered and said to me, yes, I'm a very smart lady. I was posted to Osun State for NYC, but I used my smartness and contacts and got myself redeployed to Lagos. And then I asked her, is that you being smart? He said, yes, that's me being smart. I needed to be in Lagos. And then I got myself here. And immediately she walked out of the room, I wrote there, character flaw. And that was why she was not hired. The learned brother, Professor Ajayi, asked me, why did you say character flaw? And I told him what happened. So please, can you help us point out some of the red flags for you when you have engagements with young lawyers? What are the red flags that you notice with respect to the issue of integrity amongst young lawyers from your experience over the years as a member of both the outer bar and the inner bar?
Well, there are many examples, but if I'm conducting an interview, of course it's important. I always say that before you talk about ethics and integrity, skill is a foundation. Yes. So if someone comes to an interview and they aren't prepared, I had an interview with somebody recently, and what do you know about this firm, or what do you know about me? He couldn't tell me anything, which means he had come to the meeting without being prepared for the people he was going to meet. I mean, if I have a meeting with somebody, I'm going to look them up, and I'm going to have some information. Secondly, this perspective, you can see the flashing dollar signs in people's eyes. And there was an interesting incident in my own law firm many years ago, which I think may be worth sharing. We're doing a case against a notorious fraudster, and we'd attached some money that belonged to him in a bank. And then, and this was a fraudster whose name rang bells. And I was told that someone was in my reception and the person wanted to see me. And so I said, when I realized who he was, his connection, because he had come to court to this person. These were very strapping individuals. And as you can see, I'm quite slight of frame. more so then than now. And so we asked to see him, and the man said he has instructions to offer 500. So I said, well, the client will consider an offer that is more serious. The amount of money outstanding is maybe 5 or 6 million naira, dollars. We will, if you make an offer. And he said, the 500 is not for your client, it's for you. Now, of course, it wasn't, and the point I'm going to come to is about how I discussed that with the colleagues in my office. But these were scary people. These were people who, in connection with their business, lives had been lost. So I said, well, look, I'm going to put your proposal to the client and we'll talk tomorrow morning. So he left, he said he'd come back the next day. And I called some of the lawyers in the office. One of them, whose name I can mention, because she was almost in tears at the indignation that we would face such an offer, that someone would come and offer us money in the course of our work. This is Rekia Sanusi, who is one of the wives of MS Sanusi today. And I remember she was just beside herself. One of the lawyers said, we're in this business for money. So it was important. I knew what my own perspective was, but I wanted to hear what other people's perspectives would be. And when he said that and they finished speaking, I said, well, I'm glad to hear your views. If I was to accept money in circumstances like this, it would change my life forever in a way that I have never contemplated. And I dismissed the meeting. And the next day the man came up and I said, thank you very much for your visit. And then again, to be clear, these are scary people. So in fact, subsequently, The lawyer for this international fraudster was an old senior advocate of Nigeria who he's dead now, but he was very kind to me. Even though we had blazing rows. I mean, I was in the Court of Appeal one occasion when I was practically about to put my fingers in the eyes of him and the Court of Appeal justice, and I kept walking towards the court as I was speaking. And the judge, I think Justice Awogu, then said, Mr. Kante Johnson, and really this is what stopped me from stepping, from going any further. And the lawyer said to me, he said, in Yoruba, he's a man from Ondo State, he said that you're doing your work, and I told them nobody must harm you. Now, so this is just to give the context of the type of individuals we're dealing with. So the next day the man was coming back, this tall chap. I needed to have some confidence. You see, it's not that, in these situations that you face that we have challenged, it's not that you will not be afraid, it's not that you will not be tempted, it's not that, and nobody's perfect. And I judge nobody who, recognizing a difficulty, takes the wrong decision. People can take the wrong decision, but the sum total of your actions in the end must be how you should be characterized. I mean, I don't think there's anybody who will face inquiry that will not have some point of regret. But it's the whole picture that you tell. I was telling someone the other day, I said George Washington was a rapist, but nobody remembers him as that. You remember him as an icon of American independence and politics. So your life is a whole picture. And I said to him that no acceptance will be made. This is what is going to happen. We're going to continue with the case. We've seized the fund. And if you have an offer to the client, put it in writing and we'll send it to them. The client was based in California. And that's how that matter ended. But then it was important to recognize that a range of perspectives, from the woman who was almost in tears with indignation to the other. So you can see, so when I meet lawyers, I want to you have to form an opinion about their, and character is more important than their skill and ability. You can, as a lawyer, can prepare and achieve the result that a brilliant man can do, but it may take him more time. But if your character is fundamentally flawed, you're going to poison the fountain of what you do.
Thank you very much for that. Teasing out a final question for you, sir, from the answer that you gave to me. Okay. Talking about the counsel that said to you that we are in here, we're in this for the money. My question, sir, to you is this. When you hear that from a young lawyer, does that forever color your mind about that person? Or do you then say to yourself, let me see if there are future occurrences with respect to this person that might show me really that this person has a character flaw? Do you just draw the line when you hear that statement from the person and you draw the line, this person has a fundamental character flaw and shouldn't be practicing with me, I shouldn't have a relationship with that person? How do you handle such a situation?
If I was employing the person for the first time, it would be very difficult to come back from that sort of comment. If there's someone that I had some sort of relationship with, who I knew, who I had other reason to have a favorable impression of, I would hope that with explanation and by example, that they would realize that there's another way. You know, you have to. Another junior who used to work with me, who is now a partner in a big law firm, some of you know him now, told me a story about how he was approached by Candid Phone. They used to do this thing on Cool FM where they would call you and give you a proposition which was remarkable, and they would test you, and then they would tell you, it's a joke, it's Candid Phone. And he said he was on Candid Phone. One of his friends worked there. They kept telling him that they have this big case. The man is a drug dealer. He did it, but they were going to give you $300,000. And he said that they didn't, because he just kept saying, my boss will never agree. And so he said, no, it's a lot. My boss will never agree. And this is what he kept saying until they said to him, look, anyway, this is Candid Phone, and they can't broadcast this show. So people need to know who you are, and you need to let the people around you know. If you work in a firm of somebody who cuts all the corners, who's a criminal, breaks all the rules, that's what you're going to become. So you tell me you work in Mr. X, I'm going to form an impression. But I will ask you, so what is your impression about bribing judges? I'd like to hear what they say, because you may work in that firm and you may morally revolt against it. It's just like torturing people to get information is regarded as unreliable because they will say anything they need to. Getting a result which has been perverted is very difficult to sustain. And you're going to be on tenterhooks the rest of your life. You're going to be looking over your shoulder. I sleep quite well, but then I don't have a lot of money.
And as you do, compared to most of us that are just trying to be like you, sir. Thank you very much for your answers. Mr. Yang, if I may follow up with the answers that Vanessa gave to us in terms of interviews. When you are interviewing a young lawyer who has come to your firm, Bloomfield, over the years, the experiences you've had as a team lead, what are the key things that you're looking at? Because I know most of us here, and some of us who are not yet lawyers, who are going to be lawyers very soon, what are the key areas you're looking at? Dennis Silk has touched on competence, integrity. What other areas do you look at? For one, for example, so many people laugh when I tell them this. I look at people's dress sense. Do you dress well? Mr. Jide here will pass the test very easily if you were an associate. How do you comport yourself during the interview? So what are the key things that you look at to say, look, this is a potential associate for Bloomfield LP?
Thank you very much. Caveat, the voice you are hearing is the voice of Dr. Oni. Couldn't make it, just had a sudden client engagement to attend to this morning out of town. So, yes, if I'm interviewing a young lawyer who is seeking employment in the firm, I'm going to first communication skill. I think that gives out the first impression of the person, aside from dressing, the way you talk. I don't necessarily need you to give me the legalese, but I need you to be able to communicate and pass your message straight as possible. You don't need to be too sophisticated, because what is communication at the end of the day? It's about the person who is communicating and the recipient having an understanding. Sometimes some young lawyers, they want to bamboozle you and to show you that they just came out fresh from law school. So I'm going to consider communication skill. I'm going to consider how teachable that person is. Because no matter what you know, no matter how good you are, if you're not a teachable person, first things first, it will be difficult for me as a team lead, for instance, to pass across the little I know to you, because you would assume to be the know-it-all and the be-it-all. In addition to that, we have talked about reputation, general commercial awareness. In this sense, you don't need to know, let's say, the energy industry. I'm not going to be so particular about you knowing the technical stuff. I just want to know how you're able to put the pieces together. A simple contract. I just want to know if you have an understanding of how the market or the matrix works. In addition to that, I'm also going to consider how your team working spirit. Are you a team player, or you're the one that wants to win it all? Are you the kind of person that believes in all for one and one for all? Because we are all part of a team, and we need someone who is a team player. These are the few. There are still more, but let me give time for others. Thank you.
Finally, Fasal, being a team player, how do you, during interviews, identify somebody who you think would be a team player? And what do you even mean by being a team player? Is it about you, covering up the mistakes that your team will make, not throwing someone under the bus? What really do you mean by being a team player, and how do you identify that in this when the person comes for an interview?
Okay. A simple thing as using I in all your achievements, even when you're working as with others, that can give me an impression first that this person is so much about himself. I'm also looking out for, so as a team player, yes, you're not going to be covering for always for the fault of others, even when the success of the team is at risk. But it's about how you were able to manage the situation. Let's say, for instance, a member of the team defaulted, and you think, or that would lead to the failure of the team. Were you, in telling me the story, are you going to tell me, if you're telling me the story, exonerating yourself from the whole problem, it shows that you're not a team player. But I want to hear the story in a way that, yes, something happened, but you were not just trying to give this impression that you did your own part and let the other person continue in that error. I want to hear things like you made your efforts to reach out to this person to see how to correct this before it escalated.
And Twitter. That's how easy it is for this generation. For our generation, even though I'm not like some people on the panel, we still had to do the work, right, before the branding. People then recognize you because you've done deals, you've been on negotiation tables with them, you've had the opportunity to converse and relate on those topics. And so then from that, they then get the perspective of the person that you are, and then your reputation gradually builds. But for this generation, you can build a reputation from day one, and then build your technical skills thereafter. But that's not my preference. I think my preference is hone your skills, be disciplined, be hardworking, and at some point you build that reputation. But generally speaking, I think, as Doctor said, you have to look good. Looking good always helps you. Once you dress well, people perceive that you know. And then it's up to you, open your mouth and then decide whether you do or you don't. So always dress well. It's like looking for a girlfriend, right? If you, as a young guy, you're looking for a girlfriend, you're not going to go there looking shabby. You're going to dress well so that she thinks that, who is this guy? That's exactly how it is for branding. And people generally just get to know, who is that person? If I mention today, who is the banker that wears red socks? I'm sure we all know who it is. That's branding, right? So you just have to be very deliberate and keep at it, and hopefully you'll get there. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your answer. Let's touch on something you just said in your response to my question. You talked about writing, LinkedIn, Twitter. I've had conversations even with my associates. I keep telling them, write. And I say to them most times that you see me, I always write on LinkedIn. And I shock most of them. I say to them, look, one of the things I don't enjoy the most, even though I'm a doctor, is writing. And they were shocked. And one of them said to me, Doctor, we're afraid of writing. What if we write rubbish? That's what she said. So for the young lawyer who is out there that you are saying to that lawyer now, you need to be writing, and they have that phobia, what advice will you give to them to be able to overcome that phobia and write?
Thank you, Doc. I think the advice I have is you wrote when you were in school. You passed the exams. You have a law degree. So that means there's some intellect that you have. We don't expect it to be perfect at the beginning. If a learner writes rubbish, people will say, that's a man from India. But if an associate makes one or two errors, people will cut you some slack, right? So I think the mistake is not to write at all. Start writing, you would improve, you will get better, and at some point you become the best. So just do it. I think that will be my advice, because it's the easiest way to sell yourself. I have met people just by reading their LinkedIn post. There's a young associate that I've been monitoring since university. He's going to get called to the bar, I think, the next session. But I'm sure they're going to hire him, even without having an interview, because I've been monitoring the development through university and seeing how he has improved as a university student, learning energy law. He's not yet a lawyer, but I already know he has a job. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Uzoma, you are one person that I've admired from afar, not just because of your elegance, but because you seem to be everywhere. Nigeria, overseas, speaking engagements. And I'm asking myself, for the young lawyer who wants to emerge, because you have emerged, we can't take it away from you. You have emerged. And for a young lawyer who wants to emerge like you and be a partner in a firm of young minds that are doing great things, every year I monitor your firm and the wonderful things that your firm is doing. What are the things that you believe should be in place before that emergence? Or do you just put yourself out there and say, I want to emerge, I want to be like Ozioma, and then learn along the way whatever happens? What are the key things that should be in place for that emergence to occur?
Thank you, Doc, for the question, and hello, everyone. So there's a process to emergence. You can't just drop from the moon. That's what I always tell people. Even for people who haven't known me all these years, I've always been there, and I built the process. And for someone who has a long-term goal of being a partner in a firm or taking a leadership position as a lawyer in any organization, because not everybody here, if we're being honest, is going to work in a law firm. Some people want to be in-house counsel, but whatever you are, your trademark is your trademark. So there is a process, and that process is one of credibility. You have to build that credibility within your ecosystem. And your ecosystem comprises of two categories: your colleagues and your clients. Your clients, including existing clients, prospects, and all of that. So you have to build that credibility and consistency at what you do. There are steps to that. First thing is taking ownership. If you work with me, you know that I can breathe down on people's necks, when I want things to get done and when there's pressure from the client. But you have to learn to take ownership of the things that you do. If you can't take ownership of your transactions, of your matters, then you will struggle rising in the profession. You will struggle to be in control of what you do. When your clients approach you, when you have work returning, when they just want you to solve your problem, to solve their problems basically. So that ownership, you need to learn how to take ownership, and it starts from day one. When I worked on the my first due diligence, I was very young as a lawyer, and it was for an acquisition of an OML. I was holding the pen on that transaction. I gave my boss a free time, and I love doing that. Back then, if my supervisor had to always follow up on deliverables and chase after me, then I feel like I'm doing something wrong. You need to learn how to make people's lives easy. Starting from your bosses, your colleagues if you're a team lead, and then your clients most importantly. That's the simple way to do it. I want to trust you because that's the way you build credibility and trust. You are not going to get clients, you're not going to get people approach you, even for mentorship, if they don't trust your capacity. And that means you have to show a level of consistency and credibility when you do things, when you handle things. They can basically work up to you with their problems and they go back to sleep, knowing fully well that there will be results. That you will keep them updated. Oh, they're not thinking something is going to fall out of the cracks. That's the way it works. Simply taking ownership of things. I don't want people who sit around and wait to be told to do something. There is a reason you are handling a position. And that's, to be honest, that's the best secret ever. Don't get chased on anything. Whether it's your boss, whether it's your colleagues, whether it's a client, don't get chased. Just handle it and deliver on the results. So that's number one thing. And we've spoken about personal branding, so I'm not going to talk so much about that. But it's very important that you stay informed, know what the key trends are, mindful of the things that you write, do your research, create an ecosystem that understands you, and be very consistent at that. Show leadership. So leadership and taking ownership of things, your transactions and deals, they work together. There are two sides of the same coin. So you show leadership when you're handling a team, you're working with your colleagues, you are in a negotiation call with a client. and you are able to douse tension. You are able to hold it down. It's very important. And as a lawyer who is aiming for partnership or aiming to run a law firm, at some level, that technical, bookwormish thing is no longer relevant. If I'm hiring you as a first-year lawyer, okay, I want to see what your results look like. I want to see your ability to review contracts and everything, but down the line, give it a few years, you have to show much more than that. Are you the person that you walk into a room and there is trouble? Are you always fighting with your colleagues? Do I give you a task to deliver on, and I know that I have a trip to make tomorrow, I'm not going to be available, but I don't trust that you're going to handle this to the end. So it's just, you have to learn now to take ownership of your transactions. That is the only way. Take ownership, take leadership of it, don't get chased. And also, you can't perform beyond your credibility zone, right? So you have to you can only advise, you can only do better at what you already know how to do. So what exactly do you enjoy doing? If you're supposed to be a litigation lawyer, if you're supposed to be a transactional lawyer, or if you enjoy working in a law firm and you're in an in-house organization, you are an in-house lawyer in a company, you may not do well. So it's going to be really difficult for you to show ownership there because that is not your area. That is not where you can be the best that you can be. So you have to understand yourself. I've worked with a number of people over the years to know that, okay, this associate enjoys doing projects and energy. If I give this person this work to deliver on this PPA, to review this power purchase agreement, I'm going to get it in 2 hours. But I give this person a loan agreement to draft or to review, there's going to be excuses. So you have to understand that you gravitate more towards this area of law. You enjoy doing these things better. And you can have a conversation. If you are in a department or in an environment that is not bringing out that best trait in you, for you to be the best at what you can be, you can have a conversation, then you're transferred. Talk to your boss. I actually enjoy doing this. By that time, you've already tested the waters. You know that this is what you're better at doing. Have that conversation because you only can do better. You can only perform better when you are where you're supposed to be.
Thank you very much for that. Let me tease out a question from the response that you gave to us. You said you've been there. You didn't just emerge. So you were there building and momentum until you then emerged. Now, and I'm asking myself, as a young lawyer, taking cognizance of the present economic realities that we have in the nation and the remuneration that most young lawyers across the nation receive in our profession is really nothing to write home about, really. The MBA, so many senior lawyers are trying to work on it. They've been working on it over time. And I'm a young lawyer, and I happen to be the breadwinner of my family. Do you still advise me to hang in there, do pupillage? If I'm going to do the pupillage, should it be 2 years, 3 years, 4, 5 years before I venture out to start my own or start a partnership? Do you still see the essence of pupillage for a reasonable period before somebody emerges in our current realities?
Very good question. There's no easy way out anywhere at all. Even if you want to become a founder straight from law school, there is no easy way. You're going to face struggles wherever you are in the world, except maybe you have money stashed somewhere or you're from a privileged background, which is not the scenario that we're dealing with. So it's never going to be easy. I think what helps is looking at the bigger picture, having the vision that it will get better as long as you're very consistent and you're able to build trust. So I'm not going to advise a young lawyer to just go and found something or start building a law firm. It's worked for some people, but it doesn't work for everybody. In fact, it doesn't work for most. Most partnerships start to fail because there are so many intricacies that people don't see from the outside. Remember that you're dealing with people from different backgrounds. You're building something with people who probably even have different values from you. And so there's no guarantee that things will not go wrong. And you are also inexperienced in the market. My advice will always be patient, learn, work with the people who have been there, observe. Nobody will die because you didn't make it in 2 or 3 years. I mean, except maybe they are paying you the smallest of the peanuts, which I don't think is the case. Oh, well, I stand to be corrected. But all I'm saying is, do not rush it. First of all, build that credibility, build the capacity, and be able to find people who you align with. There has to be an alignment of vision, and there has to be also a level of bonding. You can't, I don't want to start talking about partnerships now, but it's not something that you just build from the moon, otherwise it will fail. So I won't advise anybody to rush and go and start being a partner if you're not ready for that. You can continue where you are working. If you have a better offer, I know some people who leave law practice, travel abroad, do their masters, or even go in-house and then come back again. So whatever works for you. I don't want to use my own case as a yardstick because that may not be the ideal situation for everybody. But in whatever you do, especially for someone who aims to build a law firm, or you want to do a partnership with other lawyers, or you want to be something bigger than just being an employee, it's very important to allow people to trust you. And that is about what you do. If you do work today, again, it's very difficult to get clients in this legal industry. I would say it's actually very saturated. There are law firms everywhere, there are lawyers everywhere, so there has to be something that really sets you apart. You can't play the game like the average person out there and expect to get the clients. When I travel a lot, it's about business development. We're trying to meet clients, we're trying to meet people and everything. That's the same way they're also meeting thousands of other lawyers. I open my LinkedIn and I see, like, I get spammed by messages and everything. They get these things from time to time. So what makes you really different? What makes you think that they're going to drop off those lawyers who they already trust, who they already work with, to start giving you work? There's always this false vision of El Dorado that people create, especially young people. Oh, once I get out of school, I'll start doing this and I'll start getting clients. I was almost in that mix. But I had mentorship also. I had people talk to me. And I was talking to people. I still talk to people. I still talk to older people, former bosses, and all of that. But also, I am very intentional about retaining, even if it is an urgent 2K paying client. Because that is what will sustain me as a young partner. Most of your briefs will come from either referrals or repeating clients. Now, a client will not refer work if they don't trust you or if they don't have reasons to refer work to you. And why do you think that will happen? Because maybe they've not worked with you, or maybe they've done something with you in the past which they weren't comfortable with. You were not able to solve problems for them. So, 2 things to take away from this. Do not rush it. Understand what your capacity is. Understand what you're capable of doing. Before you go into partnership, whether as a young or an older lawyer, whatever level you are, be sure that you're doing it with people who have an aligned vision with you. Secondly, always be more out to be a problem solver. There is no easy money anywhere. All of us, we are looking for that money in this country. So it's not going to get easy just because you're flying from place to place. There has to be a process. You have to be patient. But you, most importantly, have to build credibility with people so that they can trust you to make referrals and also repeat whatever they are giving you.
Thank you very much. A very important issue that you just talked about now with respect to mentorship. And this is for Mrs. Latunde Ogemudia. Mentorship. Over the years, you've mentored so many young lawyers, both in your firm and outside your firm. From the experiences that you've had, and if you can help us with examples, if you can, how do you think young lawyers should approach mentorship? And what are the things that have put you off about certain mentees that you've had over the years that made you stop mentoring them? If you can give us examples to illustrate this point, it's very critical for us.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. It's nice to be here. I've always found, so I've had maybe two types of mentorship. I've had mentees being assigned to me, and I've had mentorship that just happened. It just happened. Maybe there was a chemistry between us. So I meet somebody, I like the person, they like me, and they just ask me, maybe would you mentor me? Or sometimes they don't ask, it just begins to happen. Now I find that with the ones that you are assigned, when they say mentor this person, those were the ones I struggled with. There was one, I don't know whether it was because it was virtual, she was assigned to me, I was supposed to have calls. So it just always felt like an appointment, you know. I need to talk to her this time. So we'll have the call, but there wasn't really any interaction outside. I felt that she probably felt that way as well, and because she never reached out to me outside of the scheduled call. So it ended, and that was it. But for the most of the mentorship I've done, it's just maybe we work together. I work together with a young lawyer, and I take an interest, and the person also seems to be receptive to being mentored by me, and we just develop a relationship. It has to be, the way I am, you have to be willing to do all those things Ozioma said. You need to be really serious about your work. So if you are just lazing about and you don't really want to do the work, I don't see how that will work. So for the ones where it's been successful, the young lawyers have always been interested in putting their best, really wanting to work hard, and seeing the mentorship as an opportunity to learn. So being open to feedback, I think, is one thing I really find encouraging in a mentee. That when you tell the person, what you did here wasn't right and you should have done it this way, they keep coming back to you. They don't run away. I've dealt with young lawyers that once you tell them they run away, you don't see them again. Or they're offended, and you can see that they're offended. I was teasing one of my former mentees, who is now general counsel in a company, so she's done very well. But when she was training, in her 2-year training contract with our firm, I remember when I was upset with her about something, and she was supposed to see me every day because she was my trainee, but she just kept away. And she was angry. It was clear she was angry. So I always tease her now that you always used to get angry with me for being angry with you. But she grew out of it. I find that, especially that, taking feedback, for a lot of young lawyers, I find maybe it's a maturity thing, because over the ones that we remain in touch over the years, I find that as they grow and mature, they get better at taking feedback. They understand why you didn't give them such an easy time. They see the wisdom in it. And they even begin to turn to other younger lawyers and say, oh, when I was like you, I thought the same, but now I know better. So I don't know if, hopefully, I think I've spoken more about what was...
Thank you very much for that. Thank you very much. From mentorship, let's talk about leadership. You're a leader in your firm, a very successful firm, not just in Nigeria, but globally. And let's talk leadership vis-a-vis office politics. Somebody once said to me that to rise in an organization, you don't need to be the most competent, but the most liked by the orgas. In your experience, is that notion correct? If in the negative, or even if it's in the affirmative, beyond that, what are the leadership qualities that you look out for in young lawyers in your firm? Because UBO is a firm that I know has a succession plan. Yes, succession plan. Most law firms in Nigeria do not have succession plans. So that notion, is it correct? If it's incorrect, what are the real leadership qualities that you look out for any young lawyer that walks through the doors at UBO?
Okay. Office politics, oh my gosh, it can give you sleepless nights. I don't know that there's anybody that enjoys being caught in it, but it's a fact. It's everywhere. What we do in the firm is we've always said it is a merit-based firm. When I walked in the doors of UUBO, it was just out of university, I went to UI. All I wanted was an internship. I was just looking for something to do to fill the gap between uni and law school. And I got it. And for me, it was just the greatest opportunity of my life. I threw myself into it. And I then began to hear things like, oh, you're such a serious intern. Most of our interns, they just come and play. Maybe their parents got them. And to me, it was amazing. I couldn't believe that someone got an opportunity like that and would just come and laze about. So I think that what the firm preaches is that it is merit-based. And the way our appraisal system works is you cannot work with only one partner. So you can't, there are people that I see try to do it. They try to stay in one lane because they feel this partner won't give me a hard time. So you must have, when we consider promotions, every partner has a say, and it doesn't matter if the person is in litigation, I have a say. So if I've had an encounter that suggests that I may not be able to speak to the person's technical competence, but I could speak to character. So for instance, there's an example of someone, one of our associates who I heard went to court with a car, and somebody else needed to go to Alausa. So when you go to court, you may not know when you're going to finish. So he took the car and then got a call that, the car's been recalled, so someone else can go to Alausa. And he was livid. I commanded the driver, will you come back here? What do you mean by that? I mean, we all take Ubers, even I, sometimes. So why can't you take an Uber? Why should the car wait for you all day, then someone going further away? So that speaks to character, right? And that is something that I would consider when that person comes up for promotion. So, no, you cannot, there's always that impression. If the Oga likes you, you will rise. But it has to be, certainly in our firm, it has to be more than one Oga. Many partners have to sit around that table and say, oh yes, I worked with her on this, I worked with him on that, the quality of work was good, the person is competent, they speak well. So again, I go back, I really hope everybody listened to what Ozioma said, because she said everything that we're here to say. If you do those things, you will rise. And I dare say this, even in the midst of politics, I personally do not play the politics. I just focus on doing what I am doing. And doing it to the best of my ability, whether it is with the person that likes me or the person that doesn't like me. And your work will speak for you. Your character will speak for you. So it worked for me in the firm. Like I said the story of how I came in. So I didn't know anybody there. I didn't grow up in Lagos. My life wasn't here. So I moved to Lagos for that job. But here I am now. And no, everybody didn't like me. And it's the same story in the SBL. I remember when I started, I went to ask Olu Akpata, I want to be involved. And he gave me something to do. And it led to another and another thing. And the door just kept opening. So that's what I will say to young lawyers. Don't say, well, if you believe I must know somebody, it is politics, it's only who they like. If that's your mindset, it will discourage you from giving your best. Now, if you're in an organization where it is clearly like that, then maybe you need to move. Or if you're in a place where you can point to people that moved up by merit, you can see their work, you can see their character, you can see, and they're moving up. And they didn't come here because they're somebody's son or daughter, then I think you should give that place a chance and change your mindset.
Thank you very much, madam. You've spoken like a true leader that you are. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Mr. Yemi Akisonya, who is here with us. And thank you very much, sir, for coming. If you can have the mic, please. Yes, sir. You're a man that you've been in the two divides, legal practice and in-house. And from my interactions with so many people and young lawyers, some of them have this notion that being an in-house counsel is a bed of roses. All you just need to do is to be a good manager, be a great administrator, and it'll be hunky-dory for you. What is your take on that, sir, for our young lawyers who are listening to you? Is that correct?
I don't know which in-house they are referring to, but certainly not the in-house that I was in. I would say this, that first of all, let me step back a little bit. There is one tradition that happened, well, something that became tradition within the Nigerian environment, in which many in-house lawyers in those days sat at their desk. If there was anything that was at the very minimum a little technical or demanding legally, they gave it out to lawyers. Lawyers vetted the agreement, lawyers wrote their opinions, and the lawyers in-house actually were what I would call, passing through officers. And many of them would spend 10, 15, 20 years in-house, and even after they had come out, they would have no competence in their area of the law at all. So there's always the impression that if you are in-house, the thing that also used to be encouraging was that you get a steady salary. Every 23rd or 24th of the month, you got some money in your account. But many of us will tell you from experience that that is only a short-term view. At the beginning, the man may be earning his money regularly, and because you are struggling, you may think he's doing better. But fast forward 5 years later, 10 years later, he's now earning the kind of money in a week that you earn in a year. The thing is that he has paid certain types of dues. If I can say this, I had the privilege of working in a company like Mobile Producing Nigeria. Everybody says ExxonMobil, but those of us who are very conservative, I didn't work for ExxonMobil as such. I worked for Mobil Oil Corporation, Mobile Producing Nigeria, before Exxon took us over. But one thing characterized and still characterizes Mobil and many of the oil companies, we worked. In fact, the nature of the oil company, I used to complain then, and I used to feel sorry for my colleagues in the profession, that many persons for a long time were oil and gas lawyers by name only, simply because they had gone to Falamo police station to bail out the Now, many of them believed at that time that working for the oil and gas industry meant doing those things. And the pity of it was that the reason why it was so is that the oil companies particularly were very chauvinistic. They are very secretive. They are very particular about their proprietary information. But that also meant that in-house, we worked very hard. We worked very hard, and we worked long hours. And we worked very demanding hours, and we worked very grueling schedules. I remembered when we were working on the Oso condensate project between the years 1988 and 1992. I traveled virtually every week. You know, there was no real Zoom at that time. Nobody was doing, although we had conference calls, but everything was, we were flying out. I was out on the plane to such an extent. I traveled so much on British Airways that when I retired in 2002, until 2005, I was still traveling on my vacations with my wife, business class, using my air miles. So to answer your question briefly, sir, working in-house should not necessarily be a breeze. I can assure you that even right up till now, my colleagues who work in-house at Mobile work very hard. They work long hours. The standards are very exacting. And, you know, it's no easy. Yes, they get well paid. But like I said, you see, the issue of being well paid, the issue of being well paid is only short term. Maybe for the first 5 years of your career, you are moving around. By the time you're 10 years, maybe you have an official car. But like I said, fast forward 20 years later with a successful, hardworking lawyer. And you may have 2 official cars, but he has 5. And he has the thing in. So, short answer, it is not a bed of roses. Number 2, I'll say this. There is also opportunity for you wherever you are. You are the one who determines what you want to do. One thing I made my mind up when I joined Mobile, even at the time, was that I was going to learn as much as I could do, and I constantly volunteered for many things. I put myself forward. I called up partners, I called up managers and told them, do you have work for me to do? Can I help you with what you're doing? Because I realized that one day, and this is one thing I say to many young lawyers, one day you may be out in the street. It will be a pity if 20 years after you have been in-house, you're out on the street, you are 20 years at the bar, but you don't even know the law that a 3-year-old knows. So I say this. It may seem like a bed of roses, it may appear so, but in reality, it depends on what you choose to make it. It is your choice. You can work hard, or you can coast along and earn the salaries. But remember, one day, one time or the other, whether you retire early or you retire late, you are going to be right out in the market. And if you are out in the market, it will be a shame to you if people who have just come out 7 years are correcting you because you didn't know what you should do. So, sir, I hope I answered that question
perfectly. Thank you very much, sir, for that. Speaking to us from your well of wisdom, we really appreciate you and appreciate all our panelists. I would like to end this session with Leonard Siok. Leonard Siok, please, your last words for us young lawyers who are here. Your last words for us, sir. Thank you very much.
Well, it's a big task to give last words. You know, there's so much that's going on which causes us to be afraid, to be despondent, even about the profession. I was telling my friend Allah here, when the Supreme Court together 2 weeks ago, and sometimes things that you see give a very poor impression about the future of law practice. And we've seen so many occasions when Nigerian lawyers have been usurped by foreign lawyers. People will tell you, in fact, the joke was that, no, there's a joke, that during the presidency of General Obasanjo, President Obasanjo, he said, any brief over $100,000 should give it to the Oyimbos. And it's terrible that after all these years, you know, that we haven't established the strength of our profession. The quality of it, the strength, it really is not there. Many years ago, we were trying to employ a headmaster for a British school in Lagos. And Mrs. Fabiana Gundipe, who's an old educationist, said to me that in 1960, we had Nigerian vice chancellors of universities. Why on earth are you trying to employ an English headmaster for a primary school? And it struck me. And same thing with our law. We tend to accept an inferior status because we don't do the work. People don't want to do the work. People want to avoid working. People want to take the line of least resistance. You have to fight. You have to work. There's nothing you can do. There's nothing that you give me to do today. Even if I did a case on it last week, I'm going to read it up. So you can never finish learning, but you have to take the steps. There is no shortcuts. Many of these things that have been said here already. So I'm not despondent. I believe that talking to young lawyers is exactly the germ of a new law practice. That you can set your sights on a higher target than we did, and you can set yourself on a target beyond even the leaders of our profession. Because if you look just at the leaders of our profession, you're going to be looking at Osun State or Abakaliki. You have to look beyond that. And I think that the level of ability, the access to information and knowledge which lawyers have today is beyond the wildest dreams that we had. I mean, when we started, even to find a decision of the Supreme Court, you have to look for a certified true copy and go and wait. They went Ganify and started publishing law reports. It was a revolution. The idea that you could get, because Chief Len would stand up in court and say that this motion must be dismissed because 3 days ago the Supreme Court gave a decision, here's the judgment. Now, it's not the case. So the explosion of access to information is one that young people, and Gen Z, or Gen, which is the latest generation, is it Alpha? Okay. They boast about their short-term knowledge, their impatience, their ability to access information, their mastery of technology. Use it to do something fantastic, because we have ability here. And we have a deep market which has hardly been explored in this country. And I'm tired of hearing that big Nigerian matters, it's called one. The number of lawyers from London and New York spend more time here than they do in their own town, because we're the ones who give the space for them. And we have the ability. And the Nigerian lawyers now going abroad and working those firms and gaining ability and skills, they need to bring them back, because we shouldn't wait until they revoke your visa before you know that you come from Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Len Siok, and thank you very much to our distinguished panelists. Ladies and gentlemen, please a round of applause for our distinguished panelists. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much to our distinguished panelists. You've all spoken very well. To our audience, I hope you were able to take enough notes. When you were coming in here, you saw a notepad outside. So just a recap of everything that has been said in case you missed anyone out. So we started with the learner Silk, and he mentioned knowing the firm you are going into and their areas of practice, and having a good reputation. Of course, if you listen to him during his keynote speech, he also talked about ethics very much. And then listening to Mr. Nyang, he mentioned communication skills. So this is like an expo for you for when you are going for an interview and while you are preparing to enhance your legal career. And he also talked about general professional awareness, being a team player. So at the end of this event, before we all say goodbyes, I'm going to ask you a question based on what they've said. And if you can get the answer to that question, you go home with a gift. And then we have Mr. Oyebode talk about hard work, talk about acquiring technical skills, being sociable, dressing well. It's basically personal branding. Branding yourself in a way that you want to be perceived, you want people to talk about you. And he talked about writing. So we have a gift for someone. Okay, I won't say it now, but that will come later after, we acknowledge the panelists. And then also listening to Ozoma, Ms. Ozoma, he talks about a young lawyer who wants to emerge. The things you would know is that there's a process to emerging. And she talked about building credibility and capacity. And she also mentioned there are 2 ecosystems to achieving that, which is your colleagues and your clients. She talks about taking ownership of what you do. Don't get chased about everything. You have to get things done before people are calling you up and down. Stay informed and be consistent. And then we have Mrs. Ogemudia talk about mentorship, and she said you have to work hard, that you must be ready to do the work. And when people are mentoring, you have to follow up with them and be open to feedback. And she said something very striking. She said your work and character will speak for you. And then we have Mr. Akinsanya join us, and then I'm very grateful that Doctor asked him that question. Doctor, thank you very much for moderating. You moderated graciously. Please, a round of applause for Doctor. Thank you so much, sir. And he said something very striking. He said, in-house is not a bed of roses. It's what you choose to make it. You can relax or find out what the company is lagging, find out what they need, ask the management what they're into, and help them, accelerate what they do already. So it also demands hard work and tenacity. So change your mindset in thinking that when you go in-house, you just sleep and collect salary every month. So a round of applause, please, for our panelists. Thank you all so much. So we are now going to go over to the question and answer session. I'm sure you have your your program in your hands. So you can see we're doing very well with our time. And we'll invite. Okay. So we're going to have Dr. Mr. Kelechi Atama to moderate the question and answer session. He's a partner in Lexeter's LLP. Thank you so much, sir. Over to you now.
I don't think it's necessary. Let me just stay here. Welcome to everyone, and thank you to the panelists for that wonderful conversation. And before we go to the question and answer, I just want to say two things. One, about mentorship. You know, you don't necessarily have to have one mentor. You can have as many mentors as you desire. And you can have a mentor without knowing the person or having a personal interaction with the person. So what I do sometimes is, for someone that I admire so much, you know, I read up about the person, check the person's LinkedIn profile, and then follow up with what the person does. You know, that way you can also learn one or two things. That's one aspect of mentorship. The other aspect is in-house. You know, I've been in-house. I did 1 year in-house, and I realized it's not something that I would want to continue. And I left. So if you are somewhere and it's not giving you the desired results, you don't think you're growing, there is no point staying there because you're well paid. Over time, you realize that the money is not really as big as it is. You know, if you're earning 1 million naira today, tomorrow 1 million naira problem will come, and then you start looking for 2 million. So that's how you grow in it. So if you have questions, we can take maybe 5 questions. I'll appreciate if you want your questions to be directed to a particular person, you can mention the person's name so that we can go fast. All right.
Excuse me, please. I will do this standing up. It's not proper for a 10 o'clock program that I should stroll in at 11:30 and just sit down as though nothing happened. So I want to apologize to my fellow panelists. I want to apologize to the organizers, and I want to organize to the House for my lateness. It is not customary. It is not something that I do often, but I do not want to take you all for granted either. There is no big man in anything. If they say it's 10 o'clock, it's 10 o'clock. If you are late, you are late. So please accept my apologies. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm sure we accept your apology.
Thank you.
So, questions, please. Looks like we're going to have more than 5. Okay, let's start with the... No, don't worry, you go last. You've been talking.
Thank you very much, sir. So my name is Laton Adedeji, and I'm from the University of Ibadan. So my question is directed to Mr. Deji Oyibode, sir. So while speaking, you mentioned that it is important that as a leading lawyer, you use yourself as an example that you're very hardworking and you make sure that your social skill is still not left out, that you are able to relate well with people. But my question now is that, sir, from my view, most of the time as law students, we are scared of people in your caliber most of the time because you people don't look like you are very approachable, and even from what we see on LinkedIn, it's like you have to prepare a whole speech before you approach these people in reality. So how do we break this wall of fear? I know that you, sir, this is not the first time I'm meeting you, but looking at the learned silk here, I will most likely have to have revised before I come and meet him. So how do we break this barrier in interacting and building ourselves? And what I mean is that selling yourself within 3 minutes of just having to speak with Leonard Silk. How do you do that, sir? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for recognizing that I'm not a Leonard Silk. And so you don't have to prepare and be afraid of stopping me on the way. But I think that many of these people that you speak about, not me, because as I told you, my career is not yet successful. I'm still on the way. Those people you speak about, they are human beings. And they also like to interact with people. They also remember that at some point in their life, they were at the stage that you are in. What a lot of them don't like is when it seems to be like you are misusing the access, or you are utilizing that access for other needs apart from mentorship. And so we don't want to get, excuse me, sir, my car broke down, I need to change my engine. Right? That's not what the access is for. It's for people to mentor you and to guide you. I think that if you walk up to any top lawyer, I have walked up to people as well. It's about emotional intelligence. You see how the person is not having lunch and you're going to stop him, or is not having conversations with people and you're going to stop him or her. I think it's about just knowing the right time, walking up to them, speaking confidently, just the exact way you stood up and picked up the mic and had a conversation here. I think that's all it takes. And with that, they will then remember you. You keep going to different gatherings like this and you keep meeting up. This is not the first time I'm seeing you. So it's clearly that face would remain in my consciousness. And when you have something to offer, not just, good evening, sir, good evening, sir. Say something, okay, sir, you just closed the Renaissance transaction. How was it? What can we learn from that? Let it show that you are prepared for that meeting. It might look like an informal meeting, but it's still a meeting. And in the 1 second or 5 seconds that you have, you can leave a lasting impression just by one statement that you make. So keep doing it. Don't stop at it. They are not masquerades. They are human beings. Walk up to them, have those conversations, but be prepared. For example, I know a man that all you just need to talk about is Manchester United, and he will never forget you. So you need to know the people that you're trying to speak to, and the things that they like, and the things that will warm their hearts, and things that will open up that door and that access to you. Thank you.
I'm not a part of this, but let me add to this. Mr. Jide talked about not abusing access, and I'm saying this based on the experiences I've had from engagement with young lawyers, especially on LinkedIn. Most times, 98% of the time that young lawyers reach out to me on LinkedIn, we connect. Then the next thing I'm getting from them is, Doctor, I want to work in Olaniwa Ajayi. That's the next conversation. It has to be a process that will build to connect with me, have that relationship with me. I already know where you're coming from. Let's be frank. Most times I know where you're coming from. But let it not be that the access that you are trying to have with me is all about you getting something from me. But I've had young lawyers who reached out to me, who even sent articles to me on things that they wrote. I said, Doctor, I have seen the things you've written online. Please, can you help me look at this article? I want to publish it. That's a smart person. I review the article. It's a nice article, well written. I make my comments. I begin to have conversations with you. It'll be very easy for me without you asking me for a job to say, go and get this person for me. So please, we need to. Yes, all of us, we are approachable. Learning Silk is approachable. But when you are approaching the Learning Silk, please, tactfulness is very, very important in whatever you do. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My question is directed to Ms. My name is Fada Irufe Shayo. I just wrote the bar finals with the backlog set. So my question is directed to Ms. Ozioma Agu. During your very impactful session, by the way, you mentioned how we should know what works best for us, as we can only get better from there. But if, as a person now, I consider myself multifaceted, like I have different passions, and I'm not really just into one thing in particular. So how do I streamline, my passions so I can, know what works best for me so I can only get better from there? And an additional question is that I've heard that for a person that is newly called to bar, they must have an experience in litigation first before, specializing in any other thing. How true is that, or how do you advise on that? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that. On the first question, let me start with the second one, where you talked about litigation. I'll tell you the truth. I think the only actual experience I had in litigation was mute competitions back in UNN when I was best counsel and all of that. After that, shortly before my NYSC, I did something at Panuka and The only thing I did in court was to stand up and announce my appearance. I did not do litigation. And then I started with Detail Commercial Solicitors, which you know it's an exclusively commercial law firm, and they don't do litigation. So what I would advise and what I always tell people is test the waters first. And that starts from you identifying law firms who are full service. I will advise every young lawyer who's fresh out of school, before you carve a niche for yourself, go to a law firm, either for your internship or for a longer period of tutelage or what you call it, or NYSC, whatever. Start with a full-service law firm. Because the advantage that comes with that is you get rotated in different departments. My firm, for example, we rotate our NYSC candidates from different departments in corporate and commercial, and also different departments in litigation. So in litigation or dispute resolution, like we call it, we have our tax team, we have our arbitration, we have maritime, and so many of them. So you get rotated, and from being rotated, you get the relevant experience. You understand the process. You know whether this is what you want. Some people within 3 months, they'll be, I did not enjoy that department. I think I want to remain in capital markets. I think I want to remain in energy. I think I want to remain in banking and finance. But the most important thing is do not take that decision yourself until you have tasted the waters, at least for 1 year or 2 years. Some people have it figured out early. You know, some people, especially ones that are very introverted or don't like talking or don't like anything that is stressful, like, you know, going to file court processes and all of that. I've worked with associates who were in litigation before they joined me in the transactions team. And whilst, when they were in litigation, they weren't as good as they were when they joined me because that wasn't what they liked. They moved immediately to transactions, energy, banking and finance and infrastructure, and it got better for them. So either you test the waters, actually test the waters, except you already know from day one. Some people from school, they already knew, I wanted to do intellectual property. I think I want to just do capital markets. I'm not interested. That's because they already had some level of exposure from your muting competitions, from your debates, from even interacting with people, the kind of things that you like to do. You've seen court processes even whilst in school, so you can be able to tell. But if you're not sure, go to a full-service law firm, a robust firm that has the work, that has relevant transactions that you can be exposed to. And after that 1 year, you should be able to tell yourself to say, I don't think I want to do this anymore. I would do the other one. What was the second question? Okay, there's this book on rainmaking by Doug Fletcher. He said that you can be known for anything, but you cannot be known for everything. Now, this question on whether you want to do litigation or transactions, as the case may be, is closely tied to your first one. As a young lawyer, it's very important to practically do almost everything. Whatever you're thrown at, get a taste of it, get a hang of it, experience it. Now, 2, 3, 4 years down the line, you have to start shrinking and carving a niche for yourself. Because even when you introduce yourself to clients or colleagues, you can say, okay, I'm a litigation lawyer. At the same time, you are a capital markets lawyer. At the same time, you are projects and energy. At the same time, you advise fintechs, you do data protection, you do intellectual property. You're going to sound like jack of all trades. And a jack of all trades is a master of none. I would be much more comfortable with you as an experienced lawyer. At the level that you're speaking to me as a first year, second year, that wouldn't really matter. But you're 5 years down the line, you're 6, 7 years down the line, I want you to be telling me, like throwing punchlines when we're talking, that this is your expertise. You are the head of energy, you are the head of banking and finance, or you are the head of transactions, or these transactions in this particular law firm. That really, really sets you apart. So when you start by testing the waters, then with time, you will know what you gravitate to. Really, nothing comes easy, but you will find that when you put in the dedication, when you read, when you do the hard work, over time you will come to know practice areas that you naturally gravitate towards. It will show. You understand this better. The technicalities are more simplified when you're reading it. It's easy for you to discuss on this topic. And so what you do is you shrink the pond so that you can become a bigger fish. At the beginning, Swim in big waters. There are so many fishes. Swim. Understand who the other fishes are. Understand everything about the waters. But when you grow 3, 4, 5 years down the line, you have to leave that big water, or you shrink that big water so that you can become a big fish. And what I mean essentially is that you have to streamline and know exactly what you're good at. It may not necessarily be that you have to do only one practice area, but you can't do everything. I, for instance, I'm an expert in energy, I'm an expert in banking and finance, and I'm an expert in infrastructure. And the three of them are interconnected. Even before I started doing energy, so many people know me even more now than energy, but the reality is that all my awards, IFLR ranking and everything, were banking and finance. And I've done banking and finance for years. But in doing that banking and finance, I was doing oil and gas financing. I did power financing. I did infrastructure projects. I did project financing a lot. So you see how interconnected they are, right? That is how it should be for you. Thank you very much.
Please, can I make a comment on the question she asked? With all due respect, because I think you asked about streamlining passions. Can you clarify that? Are you talking also about, okay, you are a fashion designer? Oh, no, not at all. It's all within the law. Yes, because I thought what she was talking about, because sometimes in our profession, being a lawyer, whatever it is, you have different passions. And sometimes you are also struck between them. I studied law. I found myself in an oil and gas company and therefore became an oil and gas lawyer. Not because I chose it, but because that was by happenstance. But in my other life as well, I also do music. I play the piano. I'm a concert pianist, and I've done piano to what they call the LRSM level of the Associated Board of the Schools of Music. And there was a time at the beginning of my career, because I thought that was what we were talking about, because you gave me deja vu. Now, are you going to do law, or are you going to do music? And in those days, what they told us was, if you do music, you will be hungry. And so you need to do law. You do law to earn money, and you do music to enjoy yourself. Okay. Now, you can apply the same principle even to the things you're doing in law. I want to suggest one thing, without diminishing anything that my learned friend has said. Absolutely correct. But I want to say this. Please don't do energy law because that is where money is. Don't do banking because that's where the big briefs come from. Would you do mediation? No. Arbitration is where the money is. And you know, sometimes instead of allowing yourself to look inwards and to see what your passions are and to go after what really drives you. I had a friend when we just came out of law school. He always boasted of one thing. He said, look, if I do charge and bail lawyer, every lawyer will want to become a charge and bail lawyer. So it is not the subject matter itself. It is how you manage, how you channel, and you build your passions. I want to assure you that your passion, your real passion, what you enjoy doing, will take you further than anything else. You can then balance that. I'll give you one more example, then I'll shut up. For example, I loved litigation. I did litigation in the early days. But as I went forward, I thought to myself that litigation, advocacy, arguing cases in court was it. And I was in my own generation, we believed that if you are brilliant, you went to court. If you are not so brilliant, you stayed at the desk. That was a misnomer. However, I found later on that the skills that seemed to make me look like a good advocate were really not only for advocacy in court, but today, those same skills have set one out as a good negotiator and has also helped in facilitation skills, you find that the ability to articulate what you need to do is a lot of self-examination. And let me repeat, please don't be driven by the money. Don't say this is where the money is. Don't say this is where the glamour is. Wherever you are, whatever you do. Like that friend of mine, he said, if I start selling akara by the roadside, everybody will join me because of the way I will do it. That is the challenge I'll put to you.
All right. Thank you very much. Please, they've warned me that we have limited time. So if you're asking your question, please keep it short and simple. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, Ma. My name is Oluwadamlo Latinola, and I was actually going to direct my question to the lineage silk. But I think I'll ask Mrs. Ozofu Ogemidia. Now, Nonso talked about ethics and him given a chance. I mean, I inferred from what he said that when he finds someone that made a mistake or something, then he's willing to look at the bigger picture or the whole picture of that something. So is it always the case when you find someone, maybe someone makes mistakes, and then you know that this person maybe is unlike that person, is it always the case that you give the person a second chance, or that person now, contravenes or just crosses the boundary? And then just the second one that I'll just read, what advice would you give to someone looking towards a career transition, basically because they feel like they can't really do well in law? I mean, law with the knowledge of your advocacy, your ability to argue, to put forward your points and all that. So, and then it's looking to, and it's already a saturated space. So let me look for where I can still do my thing. So what advice would you give to someone like that? Thank you very much, ma'am.
Okay. In terms of, well, if someone says something that suggests that maybe in terms of their integrity or their ethics, they're compromised, let me just assume it's someone, like he said, someone that was working for him. Your question is, will you give the person another chance? If the person is already working for you, I don't think you can just sack unless the person stole the money. But if it's just that they said something that suggests, so why don't we take that money? I think the right thing to do is to tell them why their view is not right. And in such terms that you make it clear that that's not how we do things here. And sometimes we say those things in the firm, that we don't do certain things. And then you watch the person, because you continue working with the person and see what comes out of it over months. Do you see that the person repeats this mistake? And I'll let the learned silk also come to this point when he sits down. But that's what I would say. You watch it. If it's someone that's an outsider, then you just need to be careful in your dealings and not or expose yourself in a way that the person compromises you, because you may not have as much of an opportunity to really vet an outsider. Now you talk about when you feel maybe overwhelmed by the profession, is saturated maybe. I think, I'll say this, and it's something I observed from my colleagues. So there were some that felt practice is stressful, I'm going in-house. Law is not my passion, I did it because of my parents, I'm going to do another thing. For some of them, they found satisfaction elsewhere. So I'm talking about those who didn't. So I had some that went into the bank, consolidation, suddenly they lost their job, tried to come back to practice, but years had gone by. I had one who left after 10 years. She was saying she wants to come. Can she get a job? And you see, the thing with practice is, while as a young person you can't know what you want to do, what you want to be when you're 50, you may not know. But I agree with the advice that Ozioma gave. Try to start off in a firm that does a lot of things. Maybe you'll find the one you are good at, if you have that chance. And then in that period, be very careful about throwing it away and saying, I don't want to do it again, because it may be difficult to come back. So be sure. If you want to leave practice and go in-house, be sure that that's what you want to do, then go in-house. But in-house, you also gain experience, so you can come back because you already had that foundation, right? But if you throw it away and go and do something, and then later want to come back to practice, because over that time, your colleagues have gained 5 to 7 years of experience. If you don't have it. So I would just say, don't be hasty. Be careful. Understanding that, as an adult, you have to take responsibility for the decisions you make. Nobody's going to fix it for you. So be careful before you throw away the thing that looks like it's not working. And I think for all of us on the panel, we can all say, and I agree. In fact, my husband asked me yesterday, why didn't you do oil and gas? The same question he asked me. I just never liked it. But when I was a young lawyer, there was really that mindset that if you want to make money, do oil and gas law and get into an oil company. That was it. But it just never appealed to me. And I thank God that I did not do it for the money. Because I think the general experience is when you start practicing law, you're not going to make it in year 1 or year 2. You're going to be building and you'll be asking yourself questions. This work is hard. The money is not much. Is it worth it? But if you can see ahead of you the people that are mentoring you and you're following and supervising you, you can see that how they have gained expertise, gained recognition, improved financially. Then you know that there's something, that lies ahead. So the time you're young, you're single, that's the time to slum it. So that by the time you are a dad or whatever you are later in life, you can then begin to reap the fruit of your labor. So I'll just again end with, don't make a hasty decision. Don't throw it away because it's difficult. It always starts that way. Even for Steve Jobs and Bill Gates. Nobody started, in a glossy office. He asked about...
Okay, I understand the question about how to respond to somebody whose ethics are questioned. It's a matter of judgment in a particular situation. Sometimes people do something because they don't know any better. If someone is a thief, right, you don't need any particular explanation about that. But then there's certain things that people do which may be borderline or which may indicate a lack of knowledge and experience. I mean, even when I was giving the speech, talking about lack of knowledge about corrupt practices and about things they can, people just say, why can't I do that? Why can't I transfer the client's money into my wife's account? So if people do something that is egregious and something, of course, if something is done which is damaging to your reputation or the reputation of the firm, I will dismiss them on the spot. Because it doesn't matter how kind I want to feel. You have to staunch the blood. But I think that people can make mistakes. As I also said when I was speaking, there are things that people can do which is not the whole of their story. And sometimes people can come out of it. So for another Shakespearean reference, the quality of mercy is not strained. So everybody will like, because the kids people, they like English.
Okay, thank you, Lenesiek. I have a question on this particular issue, and I will be grateful if Doc can assist us. Ozema talked about, finding your way, working in a full-service law firm, so you have the opportunity to test the waters, in different areas. But we know that the full-service law firms, assuming everyone here, all the young lawyers here are qualified, the full-service law firms may not be able to contain all these persons. So what do you tell someone who may not have the opportunity to work in a full-service law firm in terms of deciding the area to specialize?
Thank you for that question. First off, I don't ever advise, like the panelists have said, I don't ever advise any young lawyer, fresh out of law school, to go into an area of specialization. Yes, let's be frank, all of us, I started my career in a one-man show in Aba. Yes. And I always tell my associates this, that was what, because I went to school in the East, That was what I got at that time. But I always wanted something more. So I started there. It was practical litigation. It's nothing like arbitration. I don't even know even now in Aba if there's arbitration. Practical litigation. And we were not being paid a dime. 5 years I wasn't paid a single kobo. Yes, as a lawyer. They will tell you you're being trained to stand on your feet. So when you now start making money in the future, will I be there? You'll be enjoying the money by yourself. So start from where you can start from. There's so many lawyers that have come for interviews in my firm. And when they are not taken and they reach out to me, I always tell them it's not the end of life. It's not the end of life. What you're going to become in life is you and God that will decide it. Do not despair. Start from where you can start from. And then aspire for more. All of us are still aspiring for more. Even the learned silk is aspiring for more. Aspire for more. When you didn't have the opportunity to now get into the bigger law firms, get in there with an open mind. Don't get in there and say, I just want to do capital markets. In my firm, you get in as a young lawyer, you're not going to specialize in any area. We rotate, like Mrs. Ogemudia said. There's rotation. And the reason we do that, I always tell young lawyers that in my firm, that you guys are better off than me. Because for me, really, all I know is maritime, other areas of commercial law, litigation and arbitration. You get me to the other areas, you want to kill me. But the younger ones in my firm, most of my partners who came into the firm, who were opportune enough to start their careers in the firm, almost every area of law, they know. This is the basic things that you need to know. So my advice is this: if you can get into the big firms, start where God gets you into, but build from there. Aspire for more. If you have an opportunity, get into the bigger firms. Get in there with an open mind, and when they rotate you, don't grumble. Because those are still your formative years. They are still your formative years. Whatever you learn in those formative years will always serve you in the future. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Stanley Obidiegu, a graduate from the Nigerian Law School, awaiting the result and call to bar. I would like to thank the organizer and the panelists for this insightful discussion. I wanted to ask 2 questions, but one has been answered during the course of the explanation. So my only question now is, as a young lawyer seeking employment in a firm, maybe as an NYSC or trainee associate, what are the first few things that the partners or lawyers are looking for that will distinguish these associates from other associates? That is the first few things within the first few months, that the partners and lawyers are looking for that will distinguish an associate from other associates. And I'm asking this question and directing it to Mr. Eshefukata and Ms. Osioma Abu. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. For me, first off, I'm not doing the interview process before you even become my associate. There are 2 things I look out for. First is your confidence as a young lawyer. If you're saying rubbish to me, say it confidently. I will hire you. Yes. Say it confidently to me, I will hire you. Even if you are saying rubbish to me. Secondly, try as much as you can the basic things that you need to know. Before you even say that rubbish to me, know those basic things. It's not if I ask you about consideration, you don't know anything about consideration. You can know about consideration, but when I now take you deeper and you are now saying rubbish to me confidently, that's fine. But one of the things I've noticed over the years is that the basic principles that are meant to be known by young lawyers don't know it these days. I've interviewed in the course of the past 4 years, I'll give you an example. I've interviewed double first-class students that we did not hire. One within 5 minutes begged me to stop the interview and walked away. And I had not even asked a single legal question. It was about what he did when he did an internship and something that he did. And I said, don't you think that this thing that you said to us is the way you went about this, that it was wrong? You should have gone about it this way. Not that I was correct. And that threw him off. So what we are seeing these days is people, they cram, they pour for examiners, they come out with double first class. I love academic excellence, but you have to internalize the things that you've been taught, the things that you've learned. And so if I wake you up, I tell my associates, if I wake you up by the midnight and I ask you about an offer, what is offer? You should be able to give me the basic knowledge, the basic principles of what offer is. So when you come in as an associate, and I can see that the basic things are there, the foundation is there, I call those things the raw materials. If you have the raw materials, and you are willing to then learn, and learning is about you not being afraid to get in there, even if I want to throw you into the deep end, you are open to learn, you're open to take constructive feedback. Most young lawyers, when you correct them, their faces change. They walk out angry. They just want you to always commend them. You've done a great work. Even when you have given me rubbish to review. Sorry to say it. So we need to understand these things. All of us grew. But most of us, some of us, the seniors were willing to spend more time with us, pour more into us because we were willing to learn. They saw that passion in us. And they say, this person, look, I need to invest more time. I spoke to one of my associates recently. I said to him, look, that if you have noticed, I have poured more into you than most of the associates. And I asked him, do you know why? He said, no, that he doesn't know. I said, from the first day you walked into this office, I saw that passion, that zeal, that willingness to learn and go far. And I invested time in making sure that becomes a reality. So that's, for me, it's the way I see it. Thank you.
Okay, I think Dr. has said most of the things I wanted to say. During your applications, because most times when I open LinkedIn, I get spammed by messages of, candidates for NYSC and the likes. And that's why we always emphasize, and these are for lawyers to be who are still in school one way or the other. Please pay attention to your studies because you have the rest of your life to practice law. But school is for a limited time. And why that is very important, especially in this art terrain, is the competition is a lot. There are tons of applications. So all firms have the criteria for selecting the candidates that they will now invite to write tests and interviews. Not everybody will get called. So the only thing, and we're not looking at your experience as a lawyer who is just coming in at an entry level. I don't expect you to have worked 5 years somewhere else, otherwise that would be very unrealistic. If we're hiring team leads or experienced hire, that's a different thing. But at your level, your result is the first thing that we look at. Otherwise, we'll end up interviewing 1,000 people and we won't be able to get the result. So that is very important. I spoke to someone very recently during a mentorship session, and she said that most people advised her not to do her externship in a top law firm because they are going to distract her from reading for law school. And I know, because I was once in law school, I know that extension period, we want to use it to rehearse, revise our books and everything. I could see where that concern is coming from. And that was because I told her, see, during this your law school period, avoid any other thing, any distraction. Well, when you go for externship, try to put in the work, but also be very mindful. If you feel like you're being too overwhelmed, that you do not have time anymore to study, speak to whoever you are working with. But it's very important to get that experience from top law firm. If you can't get top law firm, like Dr. Okata said, a busy law firm is enough. As long as they are busy and they have the work, that's fine. But pay attention to your study so that when people are streamlining, you can fall into the pool of a potential candidate to be interviewed. That's number one. Number two, he says something about being bold. I'll give you a very recent example. It excited me. I personally like people who are bold, male or female, because I believe that if you're working with me, I'm training you to be a leader. You're being trained to take over the world and not somebody who is timid, somebody who is going to be a pushover or jittery or something like that. That doesn't call for disrespect anyways. There's a difference between being bold and confident and being arrogant. That's very much different. And confidence should also come from a place of knowing. In fact, the more thorough you are, the more attention you pay to what you do, the more confident you can be. It's just like going for a client meeting or going for a negotiation. If you're not prepared, it's going to affect the way you speak. Maybe it's something you've done over and over. But if you've read, you can anticipate what is going to happen. That's the same way it works when you're working in a law firm. You have a matter in front of you, you have a deal, you have a client's call. Always be prepared. Do not be chased. Do not let someone remind you. Now, back to the experience I had. Someone sent me an email for potential hire, sent me an email to be hired. Now, I get the usual email, dear Ma, I've admired you, I've admired your firm and everything, you know. But this person went a step further. He didn't just send me his CV or a cover letter. He sent me a proposal, a pitch document on why he should be hired. He did a PowerPoint presentation on why he should be hired. And in that email, he now said that he will be happy if I can agree to a coffee to discuss how he can add value to my firm. I was a bit perplexed. I'm like, okay, a coffee, this is what we tell clients, you know, when you want to visit them and all of that. But I like the ingenuity anyways. I just forwarded his email to my HR and said, just put him in the pool for consideration. They will follow up if there is space. But what did that do to me? It set him apart. There was something different he did. I'm used to seeing CVs, right? Good results, the same nature of emails. But this person prepared a pitch document in simple terms, had different categories, had a proposal. This is why I think you should hire me. This is what I can do. In 6 months, this is what I will be able to do for the firm and everything. Basically just summarizing everything. This shows me this person has a commercial acumen, right? And will be able to think like a commercially savvy lawyer. So that's one thing. You have to do something different from what other people, because trust me, everybody gets the same kind of emails. Some people write me emails and then what they do is to analyze something that I've published before and say, I read your article, I came across this article and I liked the recommendations that you gave in decommission and abandonment in Nigerian oil and gas sector. These are also the things that I think, you know, like basically trying to engage me. Sometimes also when I post, because I usually post at least once a month on some commercial issues in the relevant sectors. Some of them engage me in the comment section. I don't know. You have to find a way to be visible. You can't just play at the average level. That's about being recruited, right? And also know the competition is always tougher when not everybody will make a first class. And the reality is that first class or 2-1 is not a determinant for success. Many successful lawyers we have today, many people who are leading the industry, not just even lawyers, businesses, you know, unicorns and multi-billion-dollar businesses, many of them